Right. I think we need to start this particular conversation with Dr. Miguna Miguna. And Dr. Miguna, if you can hear me from where you are you able to hear me loudly and clearly, sir? Dr. Miguna, can you hear me?
Is he calling me?
Red, we can hear you, Dr. Miguna. Can you hear me?
I can't hear them.
Can you hear me now?
They're ridiculous.
Dr. Miguna, can you hear me? All right, we're going to take a look at that technical hitch. But can you hear me, Dr. Miguna Miguna?
Now I can hear you, but I was not hearing you. I never heard anything you said.
All right, I'll take that one more time. Of course, it is an intro to this particular program to set the conversation rolling. We sincerely apologize for that technical glitch. Of course, I would like us to delve into the conversation of the day. He is hoping that you're well. And maybe the first question that we'll be able to want to understand from you, a lot has happened in the political space since we last had a conversation, and of course political alignments have taken place, and of course we have had the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga having been nominated or actually picked or endorsed as the flag bearer for Azimio Oka movement, and of course the Deputy President was just recently endorsed by his party UDA. From where you sit, you've said that you will be able to express your personal opinion regardless of those who are trying to twist or give miscommunication or misinformation about where your stand is. What is your take on the current political developments right in Kenya ahead of August 9?
Thank you very much, Eugene, and I thank your station and Kenyans for watching. The first take is that I wish I was in Kenya to participate like everybody else, but unfortunately the conspiracy of Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga has kept me out of the country. I say the conspiracy because it is them who are keeping me out of the country. I have constitutional rights as a Kenyan to be able to vie for any office or to participate in whatever way I deem fit within the law. And unfortunately, I can only do so through video links or through social media. Having said that, I have followed the recent events, that is Raila Odinga's endorsement by Uhuru Kenyatta, Jubilee, and what I call KANU orphans, and yesterday's picking of William Ruto by UDA to be its presidential flag bearer. From where I sit, I can see that one side, the Raila side, have publicly stated that they are going to continue with the autocratic practices of the current regime, meaning that people like me, who have been forcefully exiled from my motherland, who have been tortured, and whose rights have been violated, he says he will continue in the footsteps of those who have inflicted those kinds of atrocities on Kenyans like myself. For the unemployment, because we have a runaway unemployment in Kenya, the youth in Kenya are unemployed at the rate of maybe 65% or more. The rate of poverty and the inability of Kenyans to meet their basic necessities of life is astronomically high. Homelessness, police brutality, extrajudicial killings. When Raila Odinga says that he's going to continue with Uhuru's, the footsteps of Uhuru, that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that all these malpractices, all these sufferings, the runaway corruption that has been going on for the last 10 years, but which have become worse since 2017, he will continue with that. On the other hand, I see Ruto as now almost like a resistance to the status quo. Because even though technically, legally, he remains the deputy president of Kenya, practically speaking, Ruto is not the deputy president. And members of the UDA who are in Jubilee are practically members of the opposition who are being treated perhaps worse than Raila was treated by Uhuru Kenyatta. In other words, Ruto is now presenting as the alternative to the status quo, which is very interesting because I've seen a lot of people say that Ruto is the definition of the status quo. But you see, fortunately for him, he's now made to be the one advancing the interests of Kenyans who have been marginalized, Kenyans who continue to be oppressed, Kenyans who continue to be exploited. And to that extent, I think Ruto is going to beat Raila so badly that Kibaki's beating of Uhuru in 2002 will look like a joke.
Right. Dr. Miguna, I've been listening to you, and I have a few questions just on the statements that you've made. Of course, there is this argument that a lot of people are trying to understand Raila Odinga in working with the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, a man who the supporters of Raila Odinga, including yourself during that time, believed that he stole elections from you, and of course did a lot of very, inhumane things for the supporters then. How would you make sense or make no sense out of the union between these two? Because what is it that you feel Raila Odinga is looking for in Uhuru Kenyatta?
Unfortunately, history is replete with people who, one, suffer from the Stockholm syndrome. People who have been beaten into submission and now want to do everything that the oppressor did. We have a lot of people in history who have done that. And it's been scientifically proven that there are people that if you oppress them, if you mistreat them, if you abuse them, they either adopt and embrace and emulate everything that you did to them. And number one, either embrace the oppressor and turn the abuse into some kind of funny love, quote unquote, or they themselves become abusers of others more powerful than they are. That may explain part of what Raila is doing. Secondly, Raila is a cynical, selfish man and also a coward. So because he cannot face Uhuru head on, he would want to hate everybody who can, like myself. So for example, I don't fear Uhuru, so he would want to present me as something that is unreasonable, somebody who does not understand what is going on. But the reality is, he's just a coward, a selfish man who cannot fight oppression and who has decided that the best way to get power and money is to join the oppressor, you know? So that happened during Moi. It happened during one-party dictatorship in Africa from all over from each country, from North Africa to South Africa, from west to east. Raila's behavior is not unique to that extent. The third point is that Raila believes that Uhuru and others got to power through stealing of elections. And that the only way you become a leader in Kenya, I don't know why he thinks this, is when the state steals elections for you. And he wants now to be the beneficiary of the same injustice that he suffered. But Raila forgets that in 2002, Kibaki did not steal elections. Kenyans voted for Kibaki to a person and defeated the Moi project, who was Uhuru Kenyatta. The same way, in my view, they are going to defeat Uhuru and Raila in this project. The final point I want to make is that, unknown to Raila, Uhuru does not want to retire. And this point has been made repeatedly by people like Murade, people like Atuoli, and others who have said Uhuru is too young, he's going nowhere. So in other words, Uhuru knows that constitutionally he cannot run for president again. So he's hiding behind Raila, pretending that he's supporting Raila, but in fact, he wants to continue to rule using Raila as his puppet. And the moment Raila becomes president, if Raila becomes president, which I don't think he will, but if he were to become president through this project, then they will re-engineer the BBI, which they said they would, change the constitution, Uhuru becomes the prime minister, and Uhuru continues to rule just like Putin did when he changed roles with the gentleman in Moscow. So this is the greatest danger to Kenya's democracy, to Kenya's stability. And I would say this is the greatest challenge facing Kenyans since Jomo Kenyatta made Kenya a one-party state.
Right. Dr. Miguna, I want you to maybe explain to me in the layman's language, how do you explain from a legal perspective, from what you said, the deputy president seems to be playing the role of, the opposition within government. How is that even supposed to be practical in the current setup of our politics? There are those who still argue that if he's not okay with what's going on, then by principle or in principle, he should step aside, he should resign.
I think, my brother, those people saying that are either ahistorical, meaning that they don't understand history, or what they want is what happened in 1966-69. Essentially what these people want, without understanding the difference between 1966-69 and now, is to make sure that Ruto resigns, and the moment Ruto resigns, Ruto ceases to have any protection, any legitimate constitutional legal protection as a person, so that they can humiliate, they can physically harass, they can assault, they can arrest, they can detain, and they can hobble Ruto the same way they did to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Because without the title deputy president, they will be able to do that. So, the only thing preventing them from doing that now, number one, the title and the constitutional position Ruto holds. So it would be naive for Ruto to say, jump into their trap or to fall into their trap by resigning. But you can continue to hold that office even if being undermined.
So how do you serve? How do you serve, Dr. Miguna, your term or your mandate within the remaining period of this administration, if what you say and what maybe those who are pro-Ruto say he's going through, how then does he continue to serve? How then does he continue to deliver in his mandate?
What do you mean? Parliament serves and the MPs are serving, even though we know that they are doing it without any concrete power. They're not passing any laws that serve the people. They are not advocating on behalf of the people. They are not legislating on behalf of the people. They continue to earn a salary. The civil servants take an oath to serve Kenyans, but they are serving one man called Uhuru Kenyatta. They are not serving Kenyans. My friend, it would be naive to think that even where people work like yourself, that there are those who are not constructively dismissed but continue to be paid. There are people, lots of people in Kenya, that go to work and just sit behind desks and read newspapers, and there is nothing productive they're doing. So are you telling me that those people should resign when they are earning a salary for which they are supporting their families, and it is not their fault that they are not given, that they are given no work? It is not Ruto's fault that Uhuru Kenyatta has betrayed him. It is not Ruto's fault that Uhuru Kenyatta has not delegated any functions to him. It is not Ruto's fault that Uhuru Kenyatta is subverting the constitution and undermining his office. It is not his fault that Uhuru Kenyatta has become a tyrant. So why would we blame a victim of a tyrant? Uhuru is ruling as a one-man dictator, you know, as if the office of president belongs to a person. The office is an office with hundreds of people, thousands of people who are supposed to be serving Kenyans. Uhuru is nothing but a symbol. He's supposed to symbolize the unity of Kenya and be able to deliver functions in his office. But no, Uhuru wants to be God, to be worshipped, to be bowed to, so that his word becomes the law. That's not a democracy. So why would we say that Ruto should obey that? Ruto should worship him. You understand?
I get you, Miguna, but yes.
What I'm saying,
yes,
that what Ruto is doing is exactly what I expect him to do. I expect Ruto to stay in that office and defy Uhuru. I expect him to stay in that office and speak on behalf of Kenyans. I expect him to stay in that office and resist the attempt to reverse all the gains that we achieved after more than 40 years of struggle. That's what I expect him to do. And he's doing a very good job at it.
Right. Let's talk about the game plan then, because we've seen the formations, and of course, just recently over the weekend, we saw Kalonzo Musyoka making that decision that many were awaiting to know which side is he going to be able to go. And there's been this claim that when you look at the formations in terms of the personalities and the vote-rich regions that they come from, then the Azimio movement seems to have gone with this already. What is your take on that?
Those people are joking. So let's be elementary. In 2017, Kalonzo Musyoka was Raila's running mate, correct?
Correct.
But on top of that, he was also with Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula and Kaluale and Mubama and Jimmy Wanjigi and Nanok and many others, including Muvoria, all these people who have left him, right? Mm-hmm. But now he has only one person called Kalonzo Musyoka remaining. And people are saying that's better and more powerful than when he ran in 2017, or 2013 for that matter, or 2007, right? How can less be more, logically speaking? Kalonzo is weakened. Kalonzo has been yodeling and wailing even since he signed something he did not read. Kalonzo talked about the betrayal of Raila Odinga after 2017. Kalonzo said that Raila should support him, that Raila does not reciprocate. He also said that he would be the most stupid man to support Raila Odinga. Kalonzo is weakening Raila Odinga. Support of Kalonzo to Raila Odinga does not get Raila Odinga any votes. It actually demystifies Raila Odinga. Apart from the fact that logically, one person cannot be more than 10 people who have left. Mm-hmm. Raila Odinga is not the same Raila Odinga that ran in 2017. Not only is he older, not only is he more confused, not only has he lost the credentials of being an authentic fighter to Kenya's democracy, and now he's embracing everything that he resisted throughout his life, he has been left alone and naked. And
maybe he's just reincarnated or probably changed tactic. I mean,
let me just finish this.
Yes.
And he's been exposed as a hypocrite. Mm-hmm. So let's go to the changing of tactic.
Yes.
I have seen people argue as if Kenyans belong to Raila Odinga. Kenyans don't belong to Raila Odinga. Kenyans don't have to support Raila Odinga. Kenyans were only supporting Raila Odinga, and I've made this point repeatedly, when he was the legitimate resistor. when he symbolized the resistance to oppression, to dictatorship, when he was giving voice to the aspirations of the people. That Raila Odinga is no more. This Raila Odinga is a project of Uhuru Kenyatta, who is not only a scion of the worst kind of autocratic family, the Kenyatta family, the family that has plundered Kenya to death, but he is being backed by billionaires whose source of wealth Kenyans don't know, and whose wealth is inimical to the productivity and prosperity of 50 million Kenyans. So you can have a person who 10 years ago was representing the aspirations of the people, but that person can change and become a renegade, just like Raila has done. It's not just Raila. This has happened over time. If you go to Nicaragua, Ortega used to be a socialist, used to be loved by Nicaraguans because he represented their aspirations. Today, Ortega is just like any other dictator. If you go to Burkina Faso, Compaoré, when he took power with Sankara, they led the revolution. They were the two people that led the revolution and were able to transform Burkina Faso within 3 years. Compaoré then overthrew Sankara and became a dictator like any other African big man. When you go to Zimbabwe, Mugabe was loved by Zimbabweans in 1982 when he led the ZANU Patriotic Front and was overwhelmingly voted by Zimbabweans. Sooner than later, he became just like another tyrant dictator. In Uganda here, Museveni led a resistance against the status quo with kids and other young people and took over power. Today, Museveni is just like another dictator. So you can't say all these examples I'm giving you, which are all real, happened, but Raila's is different. No, Raila is just like them. As he grew older, he became more retrogressive, his politics became more backward, and he's just like any other primitive dictator.
Dr. I mean, this is why I'm asking you, because this is the Raila Odinga that you've painted the picture of, the kind of Raila Odinga that people knew. And a lot of those who are supporting him or who are his supporters are also wondering, this is not the same Raila Odinga who would say there is this corruption scandal cooking, and then a few days to the news you see that the actual thing has actually happened. And then there's also someone who said because the opposition was weakened, and that opposition means Raila Odinga was weakened. His supporters ask, does he have a birthright of being the opposition leader, that all the things that you said are supposed to be done by him? And if it is not him doing them, then he's bad?
That's not what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying Raila should have been opposition leader throughout. After all,
yes,
I led the resistance that he betrayed in 2018. That resistance was supposed to make him president, but he betrayed it and went to bed with the people that rigged him out of power. And as a matter of fact, the conspiracy was to kill me. He left the struggle. He could have gotten to power through the struggle. He could have gotten to power by remaining who he is and winning elections the same way that Hichilema did in Zambia. He didn't have to sell out. All I'm saying, you don't have to be a sellout to become president. He just needed to be himself and remain true to the cause. And Kenyans would have rewarded him by electing him. Now he has left it to Ruto. Ruto is going to win because they have changed roles. Ruto is now more popular than Raila because he's playing exactly the same politics Raila played. So what I'm saying is this. Raila was rigged, but he had won. Raila could have made sure this time that the rigging does not happen and he wins and takes power popularly. But now what is he doing? He's saying that rigging is good and electoral justice is bad. And he's willing to go not just to support the project, but to say that he will continue with the project forever. That this is the greatest thing that ever happened. You see, this is what I don't understand.
Right.
He has lost all the values, all the virtues, all the ideals that made Kenyans love him.
Right, Daktari, I want to ask you this because it's a common saying that you cannot do same things over and over again and expect a different result. And over again, Raila Odinga has been losing the election. And, you know, you said he wins rigged out, but he's never been declared president. And if he's changing tact right now, especially I want to say this, putting a caveat to the idea of the numbers from the mountain region, because I spoke just the other day to the Secretary General of Jubilee Party, and for him, he said that Raila has been consistent on his voter numbers over the years of elections, and over those periods, he only missed out on the central Kenya vote, which now they are assuring him through the union or the partnership with the president. How do you see this playing out with him or for him?
I will blame the mediocrity of the Kenyan media, and you will fall under that category. Because somebody came and said silliness on your TV, and you did not challenge him. Why didn't he support Raila in 2007? Why didn't you support Raila in 2013 if he knew Raila was popular? If he knew Raila was correct, why didn't he support him in 2017, 2018? Why was he supporting the people that were not correct? So how did he just come up, how did he wake up all of a sudden and realize Raila was correct? You see, this is the hypocrisy you must demystify. And now to answer your question directly, so let's go to the numerals.
The numbers.
Basic things.
Yes.
1 plus 1 is 2, isn't it?
Yes.
So if I say 1 plus 1 is 2, and a teacher marks me incorrect, does that make 1 plus 2 3? It's still 2, isn't it?
Correct.
So if the teacher continuously marks me incorrect, which is wrong, because the teacher is just deciding, I'm not going to give Miguna marks, he's getting the sum correct, but I'm not giving him the grade, right?
Yes.
Should I change and start saying 1 plus 1 is 10? Because the teacher is wrong and I must be wrong like the teacher to pass. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So the point is,
yes,
if you are correct, if you are right, it does not matter how many times they shout wrong, wrong, wrong. You continue being correct. And especially when it comes to matters of values, you do not say, today I don't believe in justice because they have detained me every time I have said justice. I don't believe in truth and honesty, and I don't believe in integrity. I don't believe in democracy or pluralism because they have stigmatized me and are abusing me. You understand? Like in my case, people have been telling me to become like Raila, to become a hypocrite, to become selfish, to denigrate and invalidate my values so that I can get what Raila is getting today. But you see, there is a difference. And I hope you're hearing me correctly because I can't hear.
Yes, yes. I'm with you, Doctor. I'm with you.
You see, there is a man called Che Guevara, Ernesto Che Guevara. He was an Argentine revolutionary who left Argentina, went to Mexico, met up with Castro and his brother Raul. They trained in Mexico, crossed with a few volunteers, and ended up overthrowing Batista in 1959 in Cuba and transformed Cuba to what we know today. Now, Che Guevara decided to go an internationalist revolutionary spread to India and Bolivia, and eventually was captured in Bolivia and killed like a dog alone. Che Guevara went to his grave with nothing. He didn't have a bank account, he didn't have a vehicle, he didn't have anything, he didn't have a house. But today, it is Che Guevara who is the hero of all revolutionary movements in the world. Che Guevara's name lives forever. Whereas we forgot about Mobutu Sese Seko, who had the entire world. We forgot Idi Amin, who had power and everything. We will soon forget about Jomo Kenyatta and Moi, but we will never forget about Che Guevara or Nkrumah or Pio Pinto or any of these great revolutionaries. The lesson I am trying to tell you is this. This thing Raila is pursuing is nothing. It's called a chimera. It's power is transient. This glory that Raila is seeking, this wealth that he's seeking, is nothing. It will be gone tomorrow. And people will forget about him very quickly. And people will spit where he's buried because he's devalued, as he's undermined and betrayed all the values that we have fought for from time immemorial. Values that make us human. All right? So it's not about changing tact. It's about degrading the values. Raila's degraded the values. Now it's Kenyans must pay him very perpendicularly on August 9th by voting him out with his Uhuru Kenyatta.
Right. And talking of this, I want us to move the conversation now and probably look at why you feel from an issue-based perspective in terms of what is setting the agenda for this vote for August 9. We know that for William Ruto, what he's pushing is actually to deal with the issue of the national debt. He has pronounced himself very clearly on that. He's talking about the youth unemployment, plus of course dealing with the high cost of living, and especially moving towards this through the bottom-up economic model. Raila Odinga says he's going to give out 6,000 stipend for the unemployed. He's also going to fight corruption. He's also going to deal with the youth unemployment, plus of course tax reliefs for SMEs, and deal with the high cost of living. Dr. Miguna Miguna, without probably looking at any other thing, looking at these two people who are considered the front runners in the August 9 vote, why is it that you feel William Ruto, because you said that he's going to beat Raila Odinga, from these issues, how do you feel, or what makes you believe that he's going to deliver on these things that he says?
Well, first of all, your summary of issues is very warped and distorted. Because let's look at the speeches they gave when they were nominated for their respective parties, correct?
Correct.
So I listened to Ruto's speech just yesterday, right?
Yes.
It went far beyond what you just went through.
Correct. I can't mention everything because I'm just summarizing. Yes,
yes, no, but we have to be fair here. We have to be fair here because this is the only time they laid down their manifesto. So we have to check manifesto by manifesto. He spoke about the rule of law. He talked about operationalizing the judiciary fund.
And setting free the organs like KRA. Yes.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Go ahead.
I'm not going to subscribe. I'm not going to repeat what you did because I have a brain of my own and I listen to the speeches. So I'm telling you, he talked about the rule of law. He talked about constitutionalism. He talked about the Bill of Rights. He said people should not use the institutions meant to deliver justice, that there has to be financial independence of all the independent institutions. He talked about the gender rule. He talked about the economic impoverishment. He talked about the inequalities. He talked about everything that I've been talking about since 1987. That is why I hailed the speech. He attacked corruption. He says these guys have borrowed 7 trillion, which they don't know where this money went to in the last 4 years. Now, flip that and compare to Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga said he will continue with the footsteps of Uhuru Kenyatta. He will continue with the same policies, and we know where those policies have brought us. He did not condemn human rights abuse. He did not condemn the misuse of the institutions. He did not condemn the attempt to subvert the constitution and change it. He did not condemn the disobedience of court orders. He did not condemn the abuse of the judiciary and the disregard for the rule of law. So when you compare the two, And given the fact that I am a very strong proponent of democracy and the rule of law, of course I will support the person who is calling for the rule of law, respect for human rights, upholding the Constitution, making sure court orders are obeyed. And by the way, to be personal, because this is also about me.
Correct.
I was forced out of Kenya after being tortured and detained and my house destroyed. Ruto is the only one who said he will allow me back immediately. Raila Odinga has called me a barking dog, yet I am here courtesy of swearing him in. But he's not been arrested, his house has not been destroyed, he's not called for even compensation for people who destroyed my house. Instead, he's praising them. He said Matiang'i is a very important man, a very good man, somebody you will work with. Matiang'i is one of the agents of Uhuru who did this to me. So how would anyone in their right mind say Miguna should support the people who tortured him, who destroyed his house, who removed him from Kenya, who are blocking him from coming in? And by the way, Anangwe, this I'm going to say for the first time,
yes,
because I've never said it before. When I was taken to Kajiado on February 6, 2018,
yes,
very senior ODM members of parliament came and told me that Raila, Mbadi, the Secretary General of ODM, Sifuna, Wanga, and Milio Diambo were saying I should have been killed. I should not have been released. When I came back on March 26, 2018, Raila was caught talking to Matiang'i on the phone, telling Matiang'i to block me from coming into the country when he was pretending that he was there to help me come in. These are the people you are talking about. These are evil people. So if you put yourself in my position, if I came and abducted you from your house and made sure that I destroyed it, detained you and took you out of your house, one time even sedating you, would I be in my right mind to ask you to support the person who did that to you?
I think logic beats
No, I'm
it.
not
But
asking.
you would not. And probably that is why the question, are you supporting or not supporting, actually, let me rephrase that, you're not supporting Raila Odinga because of all that, right?
All that plus what now he represents, plus the fact that he's in bed with the single most destructive element in Kenya, the person who threatens the rule of law, democracy, and constitutionalism, stability of Kenya, which is Uhuru Kenyatta. So he's in bed with that person. So putting him in power means this will continue for another 100 years. So for us to stop this, we have to defeat them. Otherwise, we will have a situation where power will just be a choreographed game between three families, the Kenyatta, Moi, and the Odinga family. Just a game. 50 million Kenyans will just be subjects. They're slaves. And I can't accept that.
Dr. Another concern is the issue of the role of the international community in our democratic processes back here in Kenya. And I want to read from your perspective, because during the times when you were with Raila Odinga, he would go, and actually you even mentioned how you would prepare notes for him and he would not be able to deliver even with those notes. I'm talking about the recent trip by Deputy President to the UK and US, and now the former Prime Minister is also out there. I would like to read your thoughts on how significant these trips are going to be in the August vote agenda setting.
So they're significant at a different level. In terms of votes, they are not significant. A trip to US, to Washington, D.C., or to New York, or to London will not make you president. All right?
Correct.
Will not make you president, will not make people vote for you. international relations credentials will not get you elected. Because if it did, Raila would have been elected and would have become president in 2013 when both Ruto and Uhuru were facing charges at The Hague. But they were the ones who became president and deputy president. So to that extent, they are not significant. However, because we live in a global village where states trade with each other, where states do diplomacy with one another, where intergovernmental relations and interstate relations and contracts and other things are important, especially after the pandemic, when you saw how African countries were not able to get the vaccine on time, and now as you see what is going on in Ukraine, it is important that one understands how the world works and tries to engage with the players at different levels. So to that extent, engagement at an international level is important. Exposure to international play. But really, it is overblown.
It is overblown.
Because at the end of the day, if you recall, when Sankara was transforming Burkina Faso, people like him were very few. And he met a lot of resistance from the international community. But the international community are not the ones who eradicated child mortality, almost eradicated food insecurity, and brought stability to Burkina Faso, and brought productivity and employment to the youth. It was Sankara's policies, even though he was very unpopular with those policies at the international stage. The same can be said of Gaddafi of Cuba. The same can be said of Castro Castro of Cuba and the guy from Libya, Gaddafi of Libya.
Yes.
Because they did transform their countries, but they were very unpopular with the Americans and whatnot. So popularity internationally does not necessarily mean that the candidate is good for the country.
I want to move away from that, but I want to ask you this, Dr. Miguna, because the Pan-Africanist you are, don't you think that some of our leaders have continued to promote neocolonialism through this kind of visits, regardless of who it is that has gone? Because we rarely see any of their candidates coming here to talk to us, give lectures or speak about anything at our universities, maybe University of Nairobi, the Nairobi School of Law, or any other. Don't you feel that we are still promoting neocolonialism through these kind of things? Why do we find it is very important and very significant to actually head all the way to the UK, US to be able to articulate what we want to give or to do to our country?
To say that a visit to London promotes neocolonialism is to be simplistic, because neocolonialism is much more rapid, much more organized, much more historical than that. You could be a neocolonial puppet even without traveling to Britain. Jomo Kenyatta never traveled to Britain, but he was a puppet in Nairobi. There are a lot of African leaders who have never traveled, but they're puppets. So you can be a puppet even in Africa. Bokassa was a puppet without traveling much. But yes, I agree with you that elevating the trips as the sine qua non for development or progress, or to be known as the better candidate,
correct,
is to be logical and is to pander to all the bad things that we should be running away from. Self-empowerment and being conscious of who you are And being proud of who you are and your culture and your continent and your people is a very important thing. A lot of these leaders, and Raila in particular, suffer from low self-esteem. I don't know how many of you have engaged with him on a personal level. When Raila is in a room with white people or Indians or Chinese, he behaves differently than when he's in a room full of Africans. And that's so apparent because he suffers from low self-esteem. Even if Raila was to be given an opinion by a truck driver in Britain who is white, he will consider it an expert opinion. An opinion he would not take from an African professor. So there is a problem that we have with some of our African so-called leaders. And Raila is one of them.
Right. Dr. Can we now talk a bit about local politics in this particular sense now, the Nairobi gubernatorial seat? I would like you to just confirm this, that you want to take a stab at the seat one more time. Is this correct?
Yes, I would want to take a stab, but subject to a number of things, right, which I'm not going to discuss today. One of them is to find a party that I could run on, because I tried to register parties and Uhuru made sure that his agents at the political parties registrar refused to register all three parties that I wanted to register. They just refused to approve the names. Unfortunately, because of the kind of so-called fake alliances that are being constructed, I may decide not to run if it is going to inconvenience the party or inconvenience me vis-a-vis where that party falls in the so-called coalitions that I've already built.
Right, so you're not going to divulge more details tonight on this direction?
Because I don't want to inconvenience and embarrass anyone, and I would rather work with those parties quietly. If it works, it will be known. If it doesn't, then I will not run, because it's not easy or practical to run as an independent in exile. It would be feasible if I had a political party whose ticket I am running on, because that party is in Kenya physically.
Right. You had mentioned something, and you said that you are still waiting for CJ Emeritus Willie Mutunga's arrival to actually execute what he had promised. And you said we must keep demanding that each one of us remain faithful to promises we give from Uhuru to the villager. You seem to be not happy with what transpired in terms of the promise that was made. It would be nice to just hear from you. Is there anything that you feel they had promised and deliberately did not deliver on? I mean, just for clarity, Dr. Miguna.
The problem is that the media, again, you guys are in Nairobi. You interview these people. Mutunga is in Nairobi. You've interviewed him. Why didn't you just ask him? Or if you have not interviewed him, why don't you interview him and ask him?
Yeah, I've not interviewed Mutunga, him. Yes.
Just hold on. Yeah, Dr. Mutunga, on the 12th, and I think it was probably the 12th or thereabouts,
yes,
of October, you announced that you're traveling to Ontario, Canada, to accompany Miguna Miguna back to Kenya.
Yes.
Why didn't you make the trip? Because he didn't. At first, it was a lie, and I call it a lie because that's what it was. We were late in submitting our documents for visa.
Yes.
A person of a former Chief Justice, or even a cabinet minister, or a former cabinet minister, or even a person in my stature when I was in Kenya, you don't even go to the embassy. You send somebody, a messenger, or an aide to the embassy with a letter and a passport, with the required funds, and they would issue you a visa, multiple entry, okay? So let's assume you are late and you're not able to get the visa on Monday. Within 2 weeks maximum, you would get the visa. So this promise was made in October, and we are at the end of, towards the middle of March, past the middle of March in 2022. Don't you see? I mean, anybody would be disappointed. Not just that he didn't make the trip, but that he lied. You see, there are things I expect from Raila Odinga or William Ruto or any of these people running for office in Kenya. But I don't expect this of a jurist. I don't expect this of a judge, a retired Supreme Court judge, Chief Justice, President of the Supreme Court, and head of the judiciary, to lie like that publicly. And Mutunga lied. And this is not the first time he has lied to me. He lied to me in 2012 when he said he was going to preside over my book launch. And he never showed up. Then he reneged on it. And the media coddle him every time. Mutunga must be brought to account. He's too old and too senior for that to happen. And if Mutunga can do that repeatedly, imagine what he was doing behind closed doors as a judge. Imagine what others are doing who are not judges. So unless we call these people to account, we will never have a system that is presided over by men and women of integrity. And that's what we are looking for.
Right. And so if this was the case, then, Dr. Miguna, I have hosted several politicians who have actually also said that the moment they take office, you'll be back in this country. You know, Reuben Kigame himself said the same thing. Musalia Mudavadi said the same. Now the deputy president has also said that. Don't you question the believability of what they are saying? Because this is an electioneering period and anything can be political rhetoric. Don't you question why aren't they doing anything right now to also at least show you that indeed it will happen, going by what has happened with CJ Emeritus Mutunga?
No, you see, nobody told Mutunga to say what he did. He said that himself.
Yeah.
I did not put a gun to his head. I was not even in Nairobi to make him make that announcement.
Yeah.
He did it in writing. It was not just something is quoted. He published a document that is still available. All right?
Yeah.
It's still published. So when you do that, then we have to call you to account. If you say, I'm going to do this tomorrow, then tomorrow, if you don't do it, we say, why haven't you done it? Until you fail to do it, we cannot accuse you of lying. So if Musalia Mudavadi said what he said, until the time comes, he said, when I take power, right? When he takes power and he does not do what he said he would do, then we say, why haven't you done it? But we cannot do it preemptorily. We cannot do it before they fail, right? So to expect me to accuse them before they fail would be to make me unfair, and I'm not an unfair man.
Yeah.
Now, the person I blame and I say has failed me and betrayed me is Raila Odinga, because I was with him. He's the one I saw. But instead of championing for my rights, he may not have power. He can say, look, I'm doing it, but I don't have power. But no, he's calling me a dog. He's saying that what I'm saying today, and I've not backed, I've been talking, right?
Correct.
He's devaluing me. He's calling me an animal, a dog. But when I was swearing him in, I was a person, I was a good man, I was a lawyer. I was the only brave Kenyan that did that. All these lawyers around him, Orengo, Otiende Amolo, Sefona, they were nowhere to be seen. They could have done it. I was not even a member of NASA or ODM. But no, he's calling me a dog. When a man does that, when you hear a man who calls his spouse, his children, or his associates dogs, that man should never be trusted with power.
But Dr. Miguna, on the flip side, they will argue that you also use close to similar words against several people. You've even called Makau Mutua a toad.
Metaphorically, I did not say Makau Mutua is a toad. Makau Mutua defamed me. Do you understand?
Yes.
He accused me of a crime I had not committed. And I was responding to him. You see, it's different. When somebody defames you and you are responding, do you understand?
Yes.
But you know, a toad is a metaphorical word. But if I, say for example, I was working with Makau Mutua, and Makau Mutua stood with me to do something, then instead of thanking Makau Mutua, I called him a toad. Then you could compare me to Raila Odinga. There is nothing Makau Mutua has done for me. He leads Kenya Human Rights Commission. He has never championed for my freedom. He's never championed for my rights to be vested. Whenever he does it in a way that is attacking rather than championing. Makau Mutua himself, his example, is a very bad example. He has been forever the chairman of Kenya Human Rights Commission. He's the worst example in the world. Because just like a Tuoli, they know no term limits. No wonder they are supporting Uhuru Kenyatta to subvert the constitution so that he can tear the term limit asunder. So that's not a good example.
I want to read some comments, but before I read them, Dr. Miguna, there's something that keeps happening every electioneering period, and that is the resurgence and the coming up of opinion polls to actually showcase perceptions as far as the voter perceptions are concerned. And you have mentioned how William Ruto will beat Raila Odinga. And going by what is being posted out here today as far as the opinion polls are concerned, first I want to read your thoughts on them because I remember there was a time when they kept showing Raila Odinga as leading, but then the flip side happened on the vote. The argument could be that the votes were rigged and on probably that and all that. What is your take on what's happening today? Because the latest by Radio Africa group, group managed by a person you mentioned as your very close friend, Patrick Kwako, is actually putting Raila Odinga ahead of William Ruto now.
But Kwako is a Raila Odinga advisor. You see, the problem with Kenyans is that, you see, look at the ownership of the people that are producing the polls. So, for example, Radio Africa Group, who are the real people? It's Evans Kidero, it's Kwako, and there is another man whose name escapes me. All those people are in Azimio. They're actually ODM. So when they commission a poll, and I used to commission a poll when I used to work for Raila Odinga. You get the pollster, you pay the pollster, you develop the questions, or you tell the pollster to develop the questions and bring the questions to you for approval. So when you develop the questions, you develop the question in such a way that whatever people say in response to the questions, they will be supporting your candidate. So disregard Radio Africa Group opinion polls. Disregard TIFA opinion polls. In fact, the entire opinion poll business in Kenya is not credible. Because if it was here, for example, and say the Liberal Party commissions a poll, or a poll is done by a member of the Liberal Party, they will disclose that. They will say that was a Liberal Party poll. It was done by the party, it was paid for by the party, it was done by the party pollster. Because parties here have pollsters. So when people analyze the poll, they start from the premise that that poll must be looked at as non-neutral because it was done by the party. But you see, that does not happen in Kenya. They don't even disclose who commissioned the polls. Who paid them? Because these polls do not generate revenue.
But the argument, Dr. is that when it favors the other party, then it is credible. When it is not, then it is discredited.
I consider the polls not credible regardless of who they favor. And I have done this consistently since I returned to Kenya in 2006. I was the first person to discredit Stedman polls. I even went to their headquarters. If you recall, if you are conscious enough to recall, remember that I challenged Dr. Wolf to produce the questionnaires. And they did, and I discredited the questionnaires. I exposed the fact that those polls were done to support Kibaki. I've done that consistently. So I've not just done it for anyone. At the time, people could say I was doing it for Raila Odinga, but I didn't do it for Raila Odinga. I just did it in order to expose the fact that they were not objective.
Dr. Miguna, could you probably clarify, deny or accept, or probably choose whichever way you'd like to answer this, just as a disclaimer, because it's been posted somewhere that you have been commissioned to actually work for the deputy president as far as his campaign or pushing for his agenda is concerned. Is this something that is true? Of course, you've already said where you would put your vote, especially based on your background.
Mr. Nangwe.
Yes.
Number one, I practice law full time. That's how I make my money. That's how I support myself.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, I have never received one red dime from William Ruto or any Ruto agent. Not one red dime. Thirdly, the last time I met William Ruto was in 2013 in the presence and company of Raphael Tuju. I was then supporting Raphael Tuju. I have made this very consistently. In 2010, when Ruto and Uhuru were in The Hague, Ruto's lawyer hired me, Karim Khan, the current prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, retained me as an expert witness. I never spoke with Ruto. I only dealt with the lawyers. So anybody spreading the rumor, like all the stupid Kenyan rumors, is just that, flagrantly false. Why would Miguna be commissioned from Toronto to work for William Ruto? William Ruto has enough people in Nairobi. William Ruto has a stadium full of people working for him. Do you understand? And finally, everybody knows I cannot be bought. By the way, if I wanted money, if money was the issue, the easiest place to get money and maybe get more money is Uhuru Kenyatta, is the president. The treasury, they raid the treasury every day. Do you understand? So money is in Azimio. Money is not with Ruto. But if money was with Ruto, Ruto already has a team working for him. They have not approached me. I've not approached them. I have no interest in that kind of work right now. Everybody knows that ideologically, I'm not with Ruto ideologically. I'm not with Raila ideologically. I'm a very radical, socialist-oriented person, all right? But when I talk politics, the practical realities of politics, you cannot confuse that with ideology. Do you understand? And right now, as we speak, because we have to be realistic, there are two leading candidates in Kenya. It is Raila Odinga and William Ruto. William Ruto will beat Raila Odinga 70 to 30%. That's almost a fact. And by the way, I've spoken with some of those pollsters that are publishing rubbish for your consumption, and they agree with me. They tell me in confidence that I'm right. All right? They tell me that my analysis is head on. These analysts that are lying to you when they publish opinion polls, because believe you me, maybe you are the only visitor to Jerusalem. I know everybody in Kenya, almost everybody that matters. I have all their telephone numbers. So if I wanted to call someone, it's very easy to call any one of them. All right? I know even Uhuru's number. So if I wanted to work with any of them and wanted to apply for a job, I could call any of them.
It would be
I
easier
have not
for you.
placed a call on any of them.
Right. Talk to me a bit about the intrigues that you see happening in terms of these coalition formations holding together to deliver? This now I'm asking you from a political commentary perspective, because we've already started seeing the jostling for the number 2 position. Because as you say it, this vote is for William Ruto to actually lose if he wants to lose, but he's already won from what you've analyzed. When I talk to the people who are pro-Azimio, they also say this thing, Raila Odinga has gone with it already, it's for him to lose. From where you sit, what would be the mistake, especially when it comes to holding these formations together, particularly on this number 2 position? We've already started seeing Malala saying that this thing has to go to Musalia Mudavadi, or we have to put them to, a competitive analysis to be able to decide who's able to best fit to support William Ruto in delivering the economy. From where you sit, the Kikuyus also are saying, especially Moses Kuria has said it, the number 2 position has to come to the mountain because of our numbers and what we provide on the table. What's your take on this, Dr.?
So let me answer it this way. Number one, I think the Azimio people who are saying Raila has taken power are lying to themselves, but mostly they are saying it for public consumption. I've seen even in the villages, and I talk with some people in the villages, even in the villages, the Luos did not even register in large numbers for the vote. They know Raila cannot win. A lot of people know that William Ruto is going to beat Raila better than you can beat a Burukenge. I mean, so it's a lie. I think the consolation they have been giving themselves is that Uhuru is going to rig for them. And unfortunately, they are going to find that a very hard fact to swallow when August comes. So, regarding how the coalitions will work, number one, the number 2 position is not that coveted. So anybody who tells you that number 2 is coveted is lying to you.
For number 6?
Because, no, the deputy presidency position is not that coveted by either side. Because if you recall, the reality is that the Kikuyus do have a president right now, isn't it?
Yes.
If it is a question of ethnicity. But this president has been the worst president for Kikuyus since independence. He has destroyed Kikuyu businesses. He has evicted Kikuyus who cannot afford even a place to live in. He has brutalized them. There are a lot of Kikuyus whose bodies are found in rivers floating, and nobody has said how they died. He arrests them. He humiliates Kikuyus, including the recent one, Tabitha, of Keroche. You understand? So nobody can tell you that being a deputy president is more important than being a president. Yet they have a president now who is just abusing them. He abuses them orally, verbally, and he abuses them physically. He abuses them economically. And he's using them to get richer and his family to get richer by monopolizing the production of milk and the insurance and banking business. So I think the Kikuyus understand power. And they know that right now in this government, the person who probably is closer to the president in terms of power are 2 people, Kibicho and Matiang'i. And they are not deputy presidents. So they know that. So why would you negotiate for a deputy president when you know what is happening to Ruto, who has made it a very unattractive position right now? Because you can't rule out the fact that history will repeat itself. The same way Jaramogi was mistreated, the same way Murumbi was mistreated, the same way Moi was abused, the same way Karanja was abused, the same way Kibaki was abused, and now Ruto. So that's number one. So anyone who tells you that the most important position that people are negotiating for is the DP's position is lying to you. Number 2, I have to take them at their word. I have worked with all of them. I know Musalia Mudavadi is slow to act, but when he normally tells you I'm doing this, he's doing it. He refused the swearing in. I'm the one who went with Raila to convince him to support it. And he told me to my face that he didn't like it. And he didn't come. It's not like we were not expecting him to that we were expecting him to come. He had already told us at a meeting that he was not coming. So he didn't lie to us. You see, a lot of people have been very unfair to Mudavadi. They are saying he did this, he did that, as if he lied. He didn't lie. He actually told me the truth. Miguna, I don't know about this. You know me, I'm a conservative man. And he is a conservative, and he says so. He does not pretend to be something he is not. The problem I have is with people pretending, and they are not who they are. Raila Odinga, pretending to be radical. He's fighting for people, and he's not. So he's lying. People like Kalonzo, saying, I don't know what I signed, blah, 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 and then he does exactly the opposite. So the long and short is that I think Musalia Mudavadi knows what he's doing. I think that he made a decision, a conscious one, to support William Ruto. And that if they discussed portfolio or whatever, that remains at the realm of the confidentiality between them. When they disclose that, we will know. I will not take anything Malala says to the bank.
You wouldn't take what Malala says to the bank. And he gave the signs of a potential working formula together with Musalia Mudavadi and the DP by showing signs in Mumias, and it came to pass. There are those who say that he could be speaking for someone, and that could be the Deputy President and the ANC brigade.
Yeah, but you see, for someone who has sat at the cabinet table, and I've been a secretary to a cabinet committee, right? Sometimes you don't say those things because you want the result that people think you want. Sometimes you want the opposite.
Yeah.
You see, there is something called a trial balloon. You can float it, but you know what you want, right? But anybody who is following the balloon is following, fiction. So I will not read Malala the way you are reading him. Malala is probably sent there to fly a balloon and see reactions as the scheming happens. It is the scheming part that I'm interested in.
Right. And with this scheming part that you're interested in, then you know William Ruto will not go for it alone. He needs to have a deputy. What do you think is the winning formula? Who do you think, in your opinion, from where you sit?
You see, there is the reality and there is what I want. Realistically, I think it would be rather presumptuous of Kikuyus to insist on having a deputy president. Because we've had too many Kikuyu presidents if we go by ethnicity. I know people will argue that all Kenyans are free, and I agree. Constitutionally, legally, anyone is allowed to run for president and become president, including Kikuyus, including Kalenjins. I agree. But the optics is that Jomo Kenyatta was a Kikuyu, Kibaki was a Kikuyu, Uhuru is a Kikuyu, and is still president. I think optically it looks bad if the Kikuyus insist that they must be the running mate. And that is with Raila, similarly with Ruto. Because you know what that brings, the danger is, particularly with Raila. Everybody knows he's old, and they're saying he's a transitional president. Which means in the next 5 years, it will be another Kikuyu president. So what have you done? Because Uhuru said that he wanted somebody else. So what is it that you would be doing if he's insisting that Raila is president, and then immediately after that, Raila could either die in power because he's too old, or he could be removed, or he could leave after one term. Either way, a Kikuyu becomes the next president immediately afterwards. That's not something that is good. But in terms of mobilizing, I think the Kikuyus expect a DP. And if I were Ruto, I would pick Gachagua as the DP. If I were him, I'm not him. I think Gachagua is the best communicator of that team. I think he's the best mobilizer. I think Gachagua understands power politics more than anybody else at that table. He was Uhuru's aide, but he's a very, very insightful man. I've studied him closely. And I think when it comes to real politics, it's Gachagua. But if it comes to optics, then it would have to be someone else. I don't know. I don't want to propose anybody, but it could be Mudavadi. It could be somebody from the coast. It could be Nanok. I don't know.
All right, Dr. Allow me to read some comments right here as we close. I have Omondi Gwada who says, you are wallowing in myopia, General. You know not what happened in Kenya today. Ground shifted, and most probably you are in the 2016 politics. Would you want to respond to him?
I can't dignify that with a response.
Right. Another one says, next time you want to dress down your enemy, hire Miguna. This is another one from Roberto Ongera says, ask Daktari what is his stand or who can he probably support for August polls, and also ask him whether he is planning to go for Nairobi gubernatorial seat. I think, Daktari, you mentioned, you responded.
I already answered the question.
Responded to that one. Tom Kuala Pole, bro, he saw Raila as president, but where is he now and where is Raila now? Miguna is a valiant and Raila an angel. Trust Raila at your own risk. Miguna now a devil despite the risk he on behalf of Raila took. Miguna, you are one of us. God bless you. This is what he says. Miguna is an eloquent liar, a hater in chief. This is Tom Kuala. Another one from Wende Mashare says, Miguna is a very sober man. God will bless him one day. Those torturing him will be put to shame. Daktari, you mentioned something that you said that no matter what the man had done, he was still a human, and being deserving of the same moral, legal, and constitutional rights that I was demanding had to be observed. This is in part what you've been able to say when your wife was actually talking about Raila Odinga, and you seem to be saying that, you know, no matter what this person has done, he's still a human being and deserves the same moral, legal, and constitutional rights that you have been demanding. Is there a time, Dr. Miguna Miguna, that you will forgive Raila Odinga?
So I don't know why I'm asked this question, because, you know, forgiveness only comes if somebody asks for forgiveness. And before you can forgive anyone, number one, they have to confess. They have to admit and acknowledge that they did a wrong. They must seek forgiveness, and they must fully account for it. Now, maybe even without getting justice, after they have done all of that, you can forgive. But Raila has not acknowledged that he betrayed me and betrayed the other Kenyans. He has not confessed to that. He has not sought forgiveness. And there has been no justice or accountability for the betrayal. Therefore, there is no need for forgiveness. If you forgive without those steps being taken, that's not forgiveness. That's surrender, which is exactly what Raila did. And you can tell where it got us. You see, Raila surrendered without demanding accountability for Musando and other people's deaths in the hand of Uhuru Kenyatta. Raila surrendered without asking for electoral justice, without asking for the IEBC servers to be opened, without asking for the reform or transformation or overhauling of the IEBC. The same people that stole elections at the IEBC are still in power. In fact, more powerful than they were in 2017. Chiloba, Chebukati, the guy who just got appointed CEO, they were all in IEBC. How are you going to have electoral justice? None of the people that stole elections, including the ones confessing now, Sabina Chege, Moses Kuria, they're all confessing. None of them has been apprehended, prosecuted, convicted, and sentenced.
Do you believe what they're saying?
Can stay.
Dr. Miguna, do you believe what they're saying?
I believe it because it happened. I know elections were stolen. I mean, everybody knows Uhuru did not win elections. You have to have lived in mass to believe that Uhuru got 78% of Kenyan voters. Where were the voters? You saw what Alice Wahome did to the returning officer in Murang'a. Literally assaulted the man. Has she been charged? So the thing is, and they were doing it for Uhuru Kenyatta. We know that Musando did not commit suicide. Musando was abducted. He did not abduct himself. And where was his body dumped? In Kiambu. Why did we forget so fast? What was Musando's crime? He wanted to put an electronic system that was going to prevent electoral theft. So he wanted to prevent rigging. So the only person who could have killed him was the person who rigged the elections because he wanted to get Musando out of the way so that he could rig elections. It's common sense. So why are we behaving as if we lost our memory that Uhuru stole elections and abused the judiciary, called them wakora, and sent people to shoot at the Deputy Chief Justice's car, Justice Muilu, and frightened the Supreme Court until they could not preside. There was no quorum for purposes of presiding over very important cases. All these things did not happen. We forgot about them. How stupid can we be? That is what Raila Odinga wants us to accept, that all these things did not happen. How can we how can we forget this? How can we say that this election, like Raila is saying Britain, will be free and fair, and there is nothing institutional, nothing structural, nothing has happened to change what happened in 2017? Why?
These are very,
what world are we living in?
These are very practical questions, Dr. You ask, but come August 9, I know you're not a prophet, that is not anywhere in your description, but let's assume that it is Raila Odinga who has won. I mean, what happens? Because you already said William Ruto will beat him more than Aburukenge could be beaten. But what happens?
I cannot say Raila will not win. So I think the question should be, let's assume that they announce Raila Odinga as the winner,
yes,
even though he has not won. Kenya will break down in civil war.
Why?
Because people will not accept it.
Why would they accept it? Why would they accept it?
Listen, Eugene.
Yes.
In 2007, Kibaki lost elections. He swore himself in at night, and there was civil war, isn't it?
I mean,
no, were you in Kenya?
I was following closely. I was not in Kenya.
No, were you in Kenya, Mr.
No, I was not, but I was following closely.
Yeah, so you were not in Kenya, I was in Kenya. There was civil war, okay? There was civil war in Kenya. Now, in 2017, Uhuru Kenyatta stole elections. And what happened? There was no peace. Now, it is going to be worse in 2022, August, because Uhuru exposed himself so badly.
So you want to say Raila Odinga cannot win fairly? That's what you're saying?
He can never. He cannot win fairly at all. He will not even get 49%. Raila cannot get 40% fairly. He cannot. And this is because, other than Luo Nyanza, there is nowhere else where Raila has votes. He has a few votes in Nairobi, but that's it. Raila will not get votes, significant votes in Western. Raila will not get significant votes in Coast. Raila will not get significant votes from the Rift Valley. Raila will not get significant votes in Central. Raila will not get significant votes in Eastern. Where is he going to get the votes to win?
He has now people who never supported him now are backing him. They have endorsed him. Meru.
My friend, who are they? The billionaires? Have you seen them in the campaign trail? How many meetings have they called? How many people have attended? How many public rallies has Uhuru called and people come to? Uhuru cannot hold any public rally in Central Province. He can't. He can only hold rallies at Sagana and at State House. How many people can go to Sagana and State House? Maximum 5,000. Can you win with 5,000? And majority of people who go there will not vote for Raila Odinga. I mean, Uhuru's cabinet will not vote for Raila Odinga. The Jubilee members of parliament will not vote for Raila Odinga. Because if they do, they will not win their seats back home. Even right now, they cannot join ODM.
Yeah, but Dr. I don't want us to go away from what you just said, because I want you to substantiate that. You said there'll be civil war if Raila Odinga was to win. And I would probably expect that you'd say whoever wins concede defeat, and if it has been lost, then there are procedures to be followed to be able to ascertain.
No. If elections are rigged, nobody should concede defeat. Nobody should concede a stolen election. Elections must only be conceded if it is free, it is fair, it is credible, and the right person who won is announced as the winner.
And that can be done without a civil war, no?
No, but I'm saying Raila can only win if he's imposed. If elections are free, elections are fair, elections are credible, Raila will not get 40%. Take that to the bank. My friend, you will be interviewing me in August after Raila has lost, and you will laud me as a prophet.
So, Dr. I'm told we have run out of time, and I want us to be able to roll the curtains to this conversation right about now. Calvin Kodalo says he's out of his mind on the numbers, though. These, I think, he's talking about the numbers that you're saying Raila will not get, despite what we've seen as far as endorsement is concerned. I would like you guys to unmute General. I want to hear what he's saying. I can see Dr. is talking.
I am not mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Those are people who have not even worked in politics. These are people who only watch Raila on TV. They have never met any of these players. I've been Raila's advisor. The position he says he's now giving Uhuru. Okay? So I know this man like the back of my hand. I know Kenyan politics like the back of my hand. I don't have to be in Kenya to understand it. When I tell you what I'm telling you, I'm not telling you because I'm not supporting Raila Odinga. Yes. If Raila was winning, I would say he would win. In 2017, I did not support Raila Odinga. I did not even vote for him. But I acknowledged he won. When my own candidate that I voted for him rigged elections, I turned against him because I'm not a supporter of rigging, even if the person rigging is my candidate.
Right. You said there are Sonu friends who are being sent to you to actually endorse Raila Odinga, and you said you'll be able to talk about them and to be able to clarify on the same. Who are these people, and of what significance, I saw from the questions, would your endorsement to Raila Odinga probably have in his...
No, I will not give his name because he will have a heart attack. But they do. He's from Azimio and they sent him.
We can handle the heart attack, Doctor. We have paramedics around here.
I know who I'm talking about. He's from Central Province, and he's from Azimio, and he's a good friend of mine. We were in Sonu, and he was sent to talk to me, and he tried. Unfortunately, he tried just like a hack, so he didn't get very far. There is no way I can support Raila Odinga. What they were saying is that even if I'm not supporting Raila Odinga, I should not endorse William Ruto. Well, today on national TV, I'm saying I 100% endorse William Ruto. And I'm asking all Kenyans to vote for him so that we can put an end to this cycle of dynastic tyranny. I will say that without apology.
Yeah.
I endorse, Miguna Miguna, hereby declare that Kenyans who are committed to freedom and the rule of law should vote for William Ruto on August 9th. Yes, I said it.
You did say it, Dr. But did you say it because you said anybody but Raila Odinga? If it was Eugene Anangwe there versus Raila Odinga, would you have endorsed me?
Eugene.
Yes.
I'm a Kenyan of sane mind who is capable of thinking, and I've articulated my statements very clearly.
Yeah.
Anybody with ears have heard, anybody with eyes have seen, and I will be proven right or wrong on August 9th. I am sure you will be calling me to congratulate me for having been 100% right.
All right, asante sana. Miguna,
I'm doing it for Kenya. I'm doing this for Kenya.
You're doing this for Kenya. There is also an imposter account. You said you'll talk about it because there are people who are saying you unawakulisha block sana. So now they are saying, where if you are blocked by Miguna, come follow this account, I'll be copy-pasting what he's saying. First of all, on a lighter note, I mean, what are the not to do things that someone should not do if they don't want to eat a block from you?
First of all, Mr. Nangwe, I'm followed by 2 million people. So
Correct.
Clearly,
Yes.
Those people are not blocked, but they are 2 million. You're followed by less than 100,000. And maybe
You're throwing shade.
Blocked.
It's okay. It will grow. You were there one day. Yes.
So the point is, my friend, right?
Yeah.
If you want to engage me, you can see that people like Mutoro, who I don't even agree with, even somebody like Professor Lekiapi, I don't block them. I actually follow them, even though I don't agree with them. There are a lot of people, like even Mutula Kilonzo Jr. I follow them, but I don't agree with them. As long as we engage in a way that is productive, I will not block anybody. But if you come to my Twitter handle just to holler abuse and to be obscene, I will block you before I read even what you have posted. Because I don't have to read what you post. I don't know of your existence, and I don't have to know of your existence. You come to my TL, you read, you comment productively. And I can either engage you or just keep quiet. That's part of a discourse. So, but the people, the one that I was talking about yesterday was somebody who not only put my picture, put my profile, put my title, he put my full name, except that he added an O on my last name, wanted to purport that I commented on Wetangula. And a media house reported it, KTN. And they commented on it probably for more than 30 minutes. So that is defamatory because I did not comment on Wetangula and I did not comment on any of the speakers at William Ruto's event. So I don't like people who are so desperate to use my name for purposes of attacking their enemies. These are Azimio desperate people. So I reported that account, and I'm sure Twitter has already suspended it because these are not people we need in the social media.
Asante sana, Daktari. I think I'll end it at this particular point. On our YouTube live stream, I have very good Miguna. That's where Kenyans are today. No dynasty, idiocy. Miguna is a bitter man. Another one says, stop blaming Raila. Tell Ruto to take you back in Kenya, okay? Benson Washira says he's a Kenyan. If he did wrong, let the law be followed. It's clear, but not treated as he was. Someone else says, yeah, Viva Miguna. And another one says, who are the Razian family who are directing when yourself you will not vote. And he says, you can say whatever you want, but we will vote Agwambo. By the way, confirm, Daktari, you registered. You have your vote.
By the way, the IBC confirmed I was already registered. I just changed the station of my vote because these people have not allowed me to go back. But it is funny what people say there. Going back to Kenya is a right. It's not a privilege. And to tell you the truth, Canada is a fully developed country. If it was a question of just the structural and infrastructural and economic and political nature of the countries, nobody would leave Canada to go to Kenya. It's a very safe country, safer than the US, one of the safest countries in the world, and very rich. I earn a very good living. Why would anybody, I go to Kenya because it's my right, it's my country, it's my motherland, and it's my right to decide where I live, where I want to work, whatever I want to do. Nobody should be able to take that. So I'm not pleading. It's not something that anybody is going to give me. I expect people to obey the law. That's it.
Right.
If I don't obey the law, you apprehend me, and the law will deal with me as required. But nobody has a right over where I live, where I work, and what I do with my life.
Right.
Not
Asante
Uhuru
Daktari.
Kenyatta, not Raila.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much, Dr. Miguna, for your time. Thank you for spending time with us on Look Up TV. We hope to have another conversation. Just to confirm, I did read your book. I enjoyed reading it. Mixed emotions right there, of course, when you talk about the trip that you were making after 20 years and a lot more. And I'm hoping that in our forthcoming show here on Look Up TV, where we'll be doing book reviews, we can invite you to just analyze and review the book and more.
You know, the authors don't analyze their own books.
Sometimes you're asked, you come and just analyze. You do a review, you tell us about more.
No.
Because I had questions, actually, I wanted to ask about everything I
Yeah,
was
you
reading.
can answer questions, but I don't think it would be fair to readers to influence them how they should apprehend the book.
Correct. Yeah. But asante sana for your time, and we'll talk next time. Thank you so much. That has been Miguna Miguna himself talking to us live from Toronto, Canada. Of course, it's a wrap right here for us. We want to thank all the over 1,000 who are actually live streaming with us right here. And I see Joseph Omondi, who's just written to us on YouTube live stream, and he says Miguna Miguna must attend or must witness the Raila being sworn in come August 9. And I have another one saying, come back, General, congratulate Janyando, come, baby, come. And Ronga Media says, I'm not boarding. Of course, thank you very much for making time to be with us right here on Look Up TV. We are available across all the 47 counties. We are on Signet, free to air. All you need to do is just do a full fresh scan and you'll be able to locate Look Up TV on Signet free of charge. And we are solutions focused media house. Plus, of course, we live stream across all our digital platforms. Look Up TV on Facebook, and of course on YouTube it's Look Up TV. All you need to do is just subscribe, like, and get the notification bell activated, and anytime we are live we'll be able to get this kind of content and more. Talk to us on the other kind of shows or guests you'd like us to be able to bring right here on the program. We'll be happy to do that. We'll continue having conversations about this great country, Kenya, ahead of the August 9 vote. More guests will be coming here to be able to also articulate themselves on the various issues. My name, as always, is Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye for now.
We value your feedback and welcome your complaints about our programming and operations. Feel free to get in touch with us through 0700 893 542 or send us an email to views@look-up.tv. We can't wait to hear from you.